Hi, this is Sarah, the Stitchin mommy, and it's Cinco de Mayo. It's May 5th, Tuesday, May 5th. I couldn't film yesterday because I was working on some Etsy things, getting things in the mail that needed to go out that day, and because I have to help my kids with their school in the morning, what I needed to do for Etsy got pushed into the time that I'd normally be doing my filming. And there's only so much time in the day that I can get away and do this. So it had to be today instead. So that's all right. You'll get to see more progress on my Stitch Mania piece. So it's all good. So speaking of my Etsy things, I'll do a little bit of admin here at the beginning. I wanted to share that I now have kits of my temperature tree in my Etsy shop. And these are all, I have 3 different fabrics. I have 14 count, 18 count, and 28 count, which comes in either over 2 or over 1 sizes. And then I also have kits of these other ones. I actually don't have my balloons listed yet because I messed up when I was ordering floss and didn't get the right colors. So these are not posted, but if you are desperate for a balloon kit, you can private message me and maybe I will be able to kind of put something together for you. But in general, like the tree ones have blue, tree and balloons will have blue fabric, and the quilt and the garden will have white fabric. So that's kind of what you can expect. These kits, all the temperature kits, I'm doing 14 count, 18 count, 28 count over 2, and 28 count over 1. But all the other kits that I have in my shop are just 14 count and 28 count over 2, just to simplify things. But I figured with the temperatures, it seems like there's a little bit more variety requested or required. And especially since I like to do things over 1, I thought I should offer that. Part of the reason I like to do things over 1, besides the tiny stitches being cute, is it's economical. You need less fabric, less floss, and so that's also an option for people that like tiny stitches. It's a cheaper kit because there's fewer supplies needed. So anyways, I just thought I'd share that those are available now. And what was ironic though is I had just listed my temperature kits on Friday, and then over the weekend sold 2 kits that were not temperature kits. They were ones I still had to put together. So the temperature ones were ready to go, ready to ship, and the other ones were, fully assembled. So I still had to work on that. But while I was putting those together, I did some extra steps to get a head start on future kits. So I'm hoping in the future to have more like assembly line kit assembly so that each time I sell one, I'm not always having to put it together right then. So it's a little bit nicer. So speaking of my temperature tree, I worked on this again on Sunday. Once a week seems to be a nice, this is mine. It seems to be a nice amount of time for this one. And I did do some more trunk this time. I did 2 small lengths and I started a new one. This is where I am on this one now. So I was able to finish April's leaves and then started in on May's branch and a couple of leaves in May. So we had one more day. This light yellow was the one I think that's 94, and the rest of these were the darker ones and the greener ones, those are in the 80s. So it was up over 93 days so far this year, but it is not consistently that hot, so that's nice. Because when it gets up to that hot, then it's harder to go for a walk in the middle of the day. The evenings are really nice, which is right now, which is great. So after dinner, we can go outside and the kids will run around and play, and I'll, prune the fruit trees and the roses and all that stuff. But, and then stitch on the patio while the kids play. So that's nice about the evenings, but my husband and I like to take a walk on on his lunch break. So if it's really hot, then that's miserable. So we usually don't do it. So far, when it gets back down into the 80s, it's still warm out there, but it's not too warm to go for a walk. And when you come home, you still need to, stand in the fan for a little bit. But it's fine. You cool off pretty quick. So, yeah, enough about weather. Let's get to more stitching. So, I was working a little bit more on my Feels Like Home Sal with the Fat Quarter Shop. This is a mystery sal that's available on their website, and I'm using the Called For Classic Colorworks, the Called For fabric, and this is 25 count cloud vintage cloth, and it's really nice cloth. It's nice, crisp, cool white, a nice texture. It reminds me a lot of, it's closer to Monaco than Lugana. The threads are nice and plump, and I like that, especially when stitching over one, which I am. So I will put in my clip here of part 1, which released on Friday. Hi, it's Monday, April 27th, I believe, and I finished part 1 of the Feels Like Home mystery stitch along by the Fat Quarter Shop, and you can find this on their shop, and you can buy just a PDF mystery. Well, they'll send you a new part of the pattern every week. Each part releases on Friday, I believe, so the 1st through the 29th of May, and they sell floss packs and fabric and needle minder and bag and whatever you might want. I am using the Called For fabric, which is Cloud, 25 count Cloud Lugana, and the lovely Called For Classic Colorworks, which are really pretty. They're nice cool shades, and the fabric is a nice crisp cool white, so it goes really nicely together. And here is my part 1. I finished this weekend during the 24 hours of cross stitch marathon, and I think it turned out really nice. I decided to stitch the fancy floss at least in this bird area, following the contours of the shape. So like I went along the edge of the bird as I stitched back and forth, and I went up around the tummy, back and forth, and around the wing, so that I wouldn't get stripes. The change of the variegation would follow the contour of the item, and same with the leaves. I kind of went along that curvy edge of a leaf and then just kept curving along with the leaves. So if there was any noticeable variegation, then it would be more natural looking. If there's anything in the stitch along that's not so natural, I'll just go back and forth, probably like a normal, because it's easier to stitch that way. But for things like this that were like from nature, it's nice to kind of follow the contours. So far that's going really well. There's a decent amount of stitching overall. The thread count is 120 by 120 for the whole mystery stitch along. So, but the parts do seem like they're a little bit bigger than the Bloomtopia stitch along, so I got to make sure to stay up on that. But it is really fun to work on, so I will be working on that throughout the month of May, and I'll show you my progress every week as I move along with that. So look forward to the next part. I'll show the next part next week, and until then, enjoy the rest of your video. Bye. And I think that turned out really cute. I have been working on part 2. I'm not quite ready to film a clip of that yet. I kind of got stalled out on that. It's a bigger part, so I do hope to finish that before the next release on this Friday, so I can post a picture of my finished part 2 when part 2 releases. And then when I finish that part, I'll go over to Bloomtopia and do one more part over there. I think a part of that released on the 1st too. So I'll include my clip of, I believe, part 7? May 1st. Yes, part 7. I'll put that clip right here. Hi, it's Tuesday, April 14th, and I'm here to show my progress on the Bloomtopia Sal. I finished part 7 this week, and so I thought I would share that with you. This is by the Fat Quarter Shop. It's a free stitch along with a Make-A-Wish donation, so you can go over to their page and sign up. they're still releasing things all the way through June or July, I think. So you still have some time. This is my progress through part 7. I'm stitching mine on 28 count Ivory Lugana 1/1 with my own colors. They're similar colors to the ones called for, but a little cooler, and they're using fancy floss from my stash. So this is part 7 right here, with these 4 designs. Very simple, so worked up quickly, and it brought out more of the yellow that was over here. And some of these, like the light blue and the yellow and the white, don't show up that great on my fabric, but overall it gives a nice balanced look. So I think it's turning out really nice. And it's got more orange hearts, which I always thought was a little funny. There was an orange heart over here, so there's more orange hearts here. At least it's consistent. There is a pink heart. There are some pink hearts too. So that's coming along nicely. So I'm hoping to do another part here this next week and get a little bit more caught up, or not caught up, a little bit more ahead of the releases, so that I can focus on other things during Stitch Mania. So that's my progress on part 7. Back to your programming. And I think that one's turning out pretty cute also. I think I have part 8 stitched already, which releases on the 15th, but I'll go ahead and work on part 9 once I get part 2 of the Feels Like Home sal done. Complicated. There's one more sal that I agreed to do for the Fat Quarter Shop. That's a year-long sal, and it starts in July and goes through next June. And it appears like it'll have 12 parts, 1 per month. And it's like a club where you can sign up either all at once and get a slight discount on each part, or you can buy them individually as you will. And you, I think the first part is available to look at on their website. I can't be sure, but I'll link it below. And it looks like each block is associated with that month to some degree. So it's another monthly series, and I've already done 2. So now I need to think about, they're little squares. So I'm thinking of doing them individually. You could do them all together, but I think I'm going to do mine individually and get another little cute square frame like I have my Little House Country Cottage Needleworks one in the little square frames, and switch them out like a photo every month. So I think I might try to do that, depending on how big they are, what their sizing is. So I'll have to measure and figure out stuff, but that's kind of my plan for that one, I think. And I like that too, rather than like some of the Priscilla and Chelsea finishes, which are super cute, if you have them on like magnets and switching them out. Doing them the way I've been doing them, where they're inside of a frame with glass and you just put them in there like a picture, you don't have to finish anything. Like there's no finishing involved. I have the edges serged anyways, but really you open up the back of the frame, put it in, put the frame back in. And I've showed that a couple times before. And then, so there's no wrapping around boards or decorating, you know, and so it just makes it a lot easier, which is a lot more my style. I'm a lot more simple in that sort of thing. Anyways, so Feels Like Home, still need to work on that this week. Oh, and I'm also being commissioned by a friend to stitch a piece for her to give as a gift. So in the next couple weeks, I'll be making time for that as well. I'm currently still designing it. It'll be a little poem. So I'm hoping to finish part 2 of Feels Like Home before I start stitching that, because I don't want that part 2 is big, and since I haven't been working on it as consistently as I should have been, still got a good amount of stitching to do left in the next few days. So so I will be allowing myself to work on the commissioned piece during the day when I might normally feel like I can't stitch or shouldn't be stitching, because it's work. It's an Etsy job, a paid client. So anyways, I'll be working on that in the next couple weeks too. However, Stitch Mania is still happening. My Monogamania, I'm allowing myself to work on these other things during the day as I have time. and I'll probably need to step up that amount of time to get the part 2 finished on this Sal. But in the evenings, I am working on Anne of Green Gables. I'm getting work done on her. So before Stitch Mania, I'll show you what I worked on the end of April, which was, first off, I worked on my nativity. Get organized here, because I wanted to make sure I got this enough stitches before I had to move on. I only had 4 days to work on these 3 and ideally get my Enchanted Stitching Challenges goal. That just reminded me, I haven't checked my Enchanted Stitching group this week, but that's okay, because I'll just fit in either Anne of Green Gables, Temperature Tree, or Quick Stitch Iris in the possibility that I might get to it at the end of the week. But anyways, this is the Nativity by Donna Gelsinger, charted by Heaven and Earth Designs, and did not quite get all my parked threads worked in because, as I suspected, there was a lot of possible stitches because these threads are really long, but I got a good amount done. And so here it is now, with these threads are kind of in the way. I don't know where to put them. But you can see that compared to last week, and I got a lot stitched in the man. This is the first Wise Man. He has a headdress and some of his clothes or headgear or whatever is drapes down the back, his back too. His face is right here. Just a little bit I did in the bottom of the palm tree. There's still a few more strings that did not get filled in, but I will bring this out again before the end of the year for sure, at least just to get those park threads in. But I would like to continue to, fill in more. When the park threads are in, it's almost like a clean slate that now you can come through and put in real progress. So I am excited to get further on this one. I do like it. This is 28 count white Monaco. They used to be sold at Joann's. I don't know that they sell it there anymore, but I think you can get this size. It's like a 20 by 24 size piece, I think. There's something similar to this on 123 Stitch, and they may be sold out right now because it seems like everything is sold out right now online, but I think you can get this size at 123 Stitch. So the next one I think was My Story. So I wanted to be sure to get, and I think the day that this was on, I didn't have as much time, so I wanted to make sure to, this one with the specialty stitches, I tend to be able to get the required amount of stitches quicker. It's just kind of the way it is. So I did work on this. This is My Story by Jeanette Douglas, which I started last month for Stitching May's birthday. I'm doing a variety of hand-dyed threads that I pulled from my stash, not the called for colors, and 32 count lamb's wool linen, which is a called for linen. It's one of the substitute linens. So here it is now, and compared to last time, and you can see there's a little bit of Kreinik in there. I put in some blending filament in with one of the blues to make the waves. And there's some cool specialty stitches. I don't know how close I can get without it still focusing. So this is all one color. It doesn't change color quite as frequently as the thread that was called for, but there's still a little bit of, it's like blue with a little bit of tan thrown in there. And then these are greens, and this color through here is all the same color. It's a variegated thread, which is pretty. And this is 3 different blues. There's a light blue that was blended with Kreinik, a medium blue, and a dark blue with satin stitches. And the satin stitches on the recommended linen was like 36 count, I think, and they said, or you can do 32 count, and I had this. This is 32 count, so I just went ahead and used this, and the satin stitches are a little bit thin. You can see the fabric through them. Same with on the trees. If they're up and down, if the lines are sideways, diagonally, they cover better. But if they're vertically, they are a little thin. But I figure it'll be kind of like that throughout the whole thing, so I'm not going to worry about stressing over should I use one strand or two? I'm going to use one strand everywhere unless they tell me to use two. I think there was one place they told me to use two. I forget where now. I think it was in this stitch. They actually said to use two strands, so I did. So everything else, I'm just using one because that's what the pattern says to do. So I'm being a good little girl following the pattern. So that's really fun. I'm enjoying that. Should come out again at some point. I don't know when. And then the last thing I worked on in April was Roses of Provence by Mirabilia. And this was a new start earlier in the year. I don't even remember when. I could look it up, but it doesn't really matter. So I only had one rotation on it previous to this, so I wanted to get another set of stitches, at least 250. And because I was running out of time, it did end up being just, I think it was maybe close to 300, just to finish out my string. But I definitely could have worked on this longer. It's really fun. And I worked on it more, I think I worked on it more than I needed to, because where I stopped, I'm working in her skin. I worked my way to the top of her head in a shadowy color, and then I was filling in with the lighter full color, and I stopped like halfway through her face, and I stitch in lines. So because I go down one and back with the other leg because it's a solid color thread. And I'm like, I can't stop with a horizontal break in her face. She just looks really creepy. So I had to do at least one more string to go down, because if you stop in her neck or shoulders, it wouldn't look quite as weird. And I think I ended up stopping, I'm still in her face, but I'm like down here. So you can see more of her profile. It was up here before and it looked really creepy. So I did more than I needed to because I needed her to look better before I put her away. So here's Roses of Provence now, about 300 stitches. And I worked this color all the way up and did some accent here. It goes all the way to the top of her head. And there was a little bit more in her fingers that I had not yet done either. And then I did, yeah, I think there was a darker shade in here as well that I did also. And then I started in with this light color and was stopped like here. So I had to keep going. So I did a little bit more. And this is on 32 count Stonehenge by Color and Cotton, which is really pretty. It's pretty close, but it is a little bit more saturated than it ever shows, but it is a pretty accurate. So that's fun. I definitely think I will work on her skin some more and backstitch her face, get to the point where I can do enough of her hair and skin to backstitch her face, because that's what I like to do, before I move over to work on the tree next to her. So that's what I'll focus on next time I pull this out, is finishing up her skin and starting in on her hair. So that was fun. And then we get into Stitch Mania. Which, as I'm doing, I told you before, I am doing Monogamous Mania with Anne of Green Gables. I guess I could show you this. I'm cropping Quick Stitch Anne of Green Gables by Heaven and Earth Designs, artwork by Amy Stewart. This is a Quick Stitch crop from her Heroes and Heroines bookshelf pattern. So you could either do the whole bookshelf, and they're one of the vignettes in the whole bookshelf, or there's this one, which has this whole big scene with this huge tree in the house, and they're little. And I just wanted them. So I cropped them down to 105 by 105. It'll fit in a cute little 3x5 frame, because I'm stitching it on 40 count silk gauze, 1/1 half stitches. So, oh yeah, I forgot to do the math. Forget. But I did 703 stitches on Friday, 630 stitches on Saturday, 393 stitches on Sunday, and 219 on Monday. So you can see my stitching time has been dropping off. I'm hoping it'll pick back up again a little bit in the next few days, because I do want to finish this this week. That would be nice. So here it is. comparison to last week. You should be able to see a good amount of change, but adding lots of colors. I'm just going down the list of colors and color completing. So some of the darker colors add a lot of depth, and there's also greens that I added. So super fun. It's coming along. There's only like 2,000 stitches left maybe. So I'm excited. Should be done pretty soon. And then in case I get to it before I see you again, I'm not sure how my stitching time will go, so I don't know if I'll get to it, but thought I would bring it along and show you. This Quick Stitch Iris is my next monogamous piece until the 20th. Because it's a gift, I'd like to just, you know, get more of it knocked out. And that's another one where I want to finish my parked threads and get on with the rest of it. So that's this one. You've seen it many times because I'm working on this for one of my aunts, and so I bring it out every month. So this one, nope, I guess I have more of these to show you, possibly. This is where this one is now. This is on 25 count, 1/1, full crosses. And I still have these parked threads. I did a blue challenge last time, so I skipped some and went on to the blues. There's still a good amount of parked threads before I can move on and pick colors and just, you know, take them. And I don't know if I might color complete this one too. We'll have to wait and see if I just do one string's worth and call it good, or we'll wait and see when we get there. It'd be cool to at very least finish off the parked threads during Stitch Mania. That would be nice. So possibly I'll get to this before I come see you again next week, but not necessarily. But this is the next one I'll be working on in the first 20 days of May. And I have decided that I'm going to not work on any other family pieces in May because there's just not enough time at the end of the month to give everything enough attention. If I only give something one day, it tends to be rushed, and I'm not usually happy with the progress. And so I want to give things at least 2 days, maybe 3. And I have 2 new starts I'm planning to do, and I thought I'd show those briefly. I'm going to start Winged Monarch by Buttons and Beads, a Mill Hill kit. I've never done a Mill Hill kit before, so this will be my first one. And I'm going to start this on the 21st along with Calico, Christine, here on Flosstube, and she's working on this one. She's going to start this one that day too, but she's doing a whole bunch of Mill Hill kits throughout the month of May for Mill Hill Mania. So I thought, oh, since you're starting that one, I need to pull mine out and start it together. So that will be fun. And then, and this is a kit, so it comes with yellow perforated paper, floss, beads. There's a button with a flower. So everything you need is all right here. Planning to use all of that. And then I also, since it's May, I wanted to start my first Joan Elliott, which is called May Day Celebration in this magazine. It is, here's a bigger picture. And this is Cross Stitch Gold, July 2010. And this was, someone brought this, I think Jay, maybe, brought this to the Southern California Stitching Retreat and was passing them out, saw if anybody wanted them because she was getting rid of them. So I got this from her, and I saw that, and I'm like, oh, this will be really fun. I still need to work on this because I was thinking of converting their dresses to fancy floss and stitching them like on the diagonal along with the movement of the girls rather than like 3 or 4 colors of DMC in each dress. So I still need to plan that, but I am planning on using this color and cotton fabric called Spring Morning. This is Jobelin, so it's an even weave, 32 count. And this dress, I'll need to make sure that this color will work on this. So this color might need to be slightly different than the DMC that's called for, but all the rest of them I think would look fine as a nice blue sky background. So I received 3 comments at least, and sometimes my comments don't come through to my email. So if somebody else emailed me and I didn't, or commented and I haven't responded, I'll get it eventually. at least 3 people commented saying that they would also like to start a Joan Elliott with me. And so I kind of penciled in May 28th because it's 1 week after I start the Mill Hill kit. So that would, and it's a Thursday, both are Thursdays. So then we can have a nice long weekend with like 4 days to work on our new start if you want. So that's kind of what I'm thinking. So feel free to start a Joan Elliott if you want. It's my first Joan Elliott. My favorite Joan Elliott is probably Edwardian lady. But I went on 1-2-3 Stitch and it's sold out. So I will be patient and I will wait and maybe start that next year because I have plans for possibly a more traditional Stitch Mania next year. Kind of following Blimey Cat method where you work on old Stitch Mania pieces. And I've never done Stitch Mania properly, but I've done a couple Stitch Manias where I start 4 or 5 things. So I think if I just kind of spread out those 4 or 5 things from each year, pick days, and then fill in some new starts along the way, that could be kind of fun. So I might do that next year, and in which case, hopefully I'll be able to source pattern and fabric for Edwardian Lady and start her next May. Or during a Joan Elliott July at some point, or something like that. Anyways, but since I have the fabric for this one, and it's May, and it's a May Day, the May Day poll picture, it definitely needs to start in the month of May. So I'm going to go ahead and continue with that one on the 28th. So anybody who wants to work on a Joan Elliott or start a Joan Elliott on the 28th, feel free. That would be fun. And then the rest of those last couple weeks in May, I wanted to spend that time on the 2 full coverage Fanatics pieces that I had picked for Around the World France in Full Coverage Fanatics on Facebook, because every month I pick 2 projects to go with the Around the World theme, and with Stitch Mania plans I would not normally have time to work on those. So I thought, and full coverage needs more than 1 day, so that's another reason why I just want to wait on my family pieces, focus on the 2 new starts and the 2 full coverages, and call it good. So I should have 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. I'll have 3 days in there. So I might work on 1, 2, 3, 3. I don't know, 2 or 3 days. I might give each piece 2 or 3 days, I guess, because there's like 11 days to work with. So we'll see. We'll see how I'm feeling with all the different pieces. But the 2 pieces that I picked for France, I believe are both because of, I think, 3 Sisters is the first one. That one, I believe Emile Vernon is French, the painter. This is the Golden Kite pattern, but the painter, I believe, is French because I have his name written down there. So I believe that's why I chose this one. Both of these are on 18 count Aida. They're some of the first full coverages I started, so they're enormous. This is a yard long, and this is where I'm at now. I have some extreme cross country with the first girl's face and some parking that I started to do in the background, which looks really cool. It's just very confetti heavy. Unnecessarily so in some ways. It's like it's just a mass of green, but there's so much confetti. It'll look amazing though. So she looks a little bit creepy because she needs a lot more work done, but I'm excited to work on her some more. And Pattern Keeper will make her even more fun. I think it will take a long time to get her in Pattern Keeper because this covers several pages. See my hand? Several pages worth of stuff I'll need to import to get my previous stitches in there so that I can move forward. So before I work on this, I'll have to work on getting both of these pieces in Pattern Keeper. And the other one, I believe this one is okay as far as symbols and stuff, but this other one, and because this piece is so big, I ended up putting it in an old map tube that I got when I bought a map to put on my wall. So that's what one of my tubes is from. Some people ask me where I get my tubes. This one is in a bag from the store when you would buy probably this exact piece. It's just stayed in the bag that I bought it in at the store. One of the large, 30 by 36 pieces that was probably at Joann's or something. This one is Princess de Broglie, and this one is not a French designer or a French artist, but a French lady. I believe the model was French. Princess de Broglie was a French princess. So another golden kite pattern. This one I bought right before it was discontinued, and then they re-released it. The Pattern Keeper version of the PDF that they sent me that is compatible with Pattern Keeper is slightly different. So I think it's the version that they re-released and not my version. So I'm having, if I work on this in May, because it's one of my chosen pieces, I will need to make a decision. I will need to decide if I should go ahead and try to combine the patterns and figure out somehow to chart in what I've done. I've done a little bit in the corner and most of her face and head, to be able to maybe chart in what I've done and continue on with the new pattern. Or I could restart it on 28 count or 40 count or something smaller and start over. I'm really torn because I don't know. This took me a long time to work on her face. The other thing I'm thinking of, even though I have like this much done in the corner, is I've never liked the background. It's super plain, super boring. There was a Heaven and Earth Designs that was released like a month ago with a lady in a really pretty blue dress, just like this one. And it made me wonder, I don't need to stitch the background. I could just stitch the subject and leave the fabric plain. So that made me wonder if even if I keep the current version I have, I don't know. I mean, I already have stitching here, but I don't know, make an oval. If I restart it, I definitely won't be doing the background. I'll just start with her, and maybe I could do her on a pretty fabric instead, since the background will be open. And I'd keep the chair probably because it's kind of needed because she's leaning on it, and just do her on a pretty fabric. I'll have to see what I have in my stash, because if I have something in my stash, that might be happening. But I thought I would show you what I have right now as it is. And this is also 18 count Ada. Looks like there's a thread on my needle that's causing troubles because it's blocking your view. So I'll park it over here for now. And here's where she is now. Like I said, I have a little bit up here that I was doing diagonal cross-country like diagonals, stitching cross-country in each diagonal before moving to the next diagonal, and parking. And then I have, so here's my lady. So there she is. I have like a couple little bits in here that I never finished, but for the most part she's done and she looks awesome. However, when I was stitching her hair looks kind of green. It's dark green. And I figured it'll look fine when it's blended in with the background. So I'm curious, I'm gonna look at the Pattern Keeper, and this might be my the make or break for whether I should restart this, is what colors they're using in the redesign of this pattern. And if these colors are more brown than green, I'm definitely going to restart, I think, because then I could definitely do a no background and have her look good. Because I think that's why I was like, I really got to do the background, because then it'll make her look right. The colors of her hair won't look green if it's next to the whatever background is supposed to be there, because then the whole thing will have the same tone and it'll look right. So, and her face is very yellow too. So when I was in the middle of her, she looked really weird. But when you get all the shading in, she looks awesome. So, I don't know. I might have a look through my stash and take a look and see what I have that I might be able to work on her with a fun background. And I'll look at the Pattern Keeper pattern and see what the colors are. There's a lot of things I need to look at with this one. So that'll all probably wait until at least next week, because this week I already have too much going on. But that is something that I do want to work on, at least sorting out, in the month of May. So I think that's it. Is that enough for you? So I will be back hopefully at the beginning of next week and show you how far I get on Anne. Hopefully finished, but not necessarily, depending on my stitching time, but that would be lovely. And so we shall see how that's going. I'm desperately trying to get caught up on my Flosstube videos because I want to be watching active Stitch Mania, and I'm still a little bit before Stitch Mania starts in all my videos, so gotta get caught up on that. So having kids around all the time is also not conducive to watching Flosstube videos. But I'm doing my best, and I am skipping a few videos, or I'm skipping parts of videos to try to get caught up quicker, so I don't want to skip them all together, because then I can't see what people are up to. So anyways, I will hopefully find time to stitch this week. I hope you do too. Hope you're enjoying whatever plans that you have that you're working on. And in the meantime, happy stitching. Bye.